After 15 loyal years they fired me coldly, but I saw it coming and had my own plan ready. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to the channel as you enjoy the story. Claire, after 15 years with Coralytics, we're restructuring your position, said Marjorie Blake, the VP of Strategy. Her voice carried a thin layer of corporate regret. Claire sat across from her in a small, sterile conference room. Denise from HR sat beside Marjorie, nodding along with a sympathetic smile. The company is heading in a new direction, Denise added, sliding a manila folder across the table. Claire accepted it without flinching. She already knew what it contained: 2-week severance pay for each year of service, 3 months of health coverage and a brochure for career counseling. She didn't open it. I completely understand, Claire said, her voice calm. Marjorie blinked, clearly thrown off. They had expected tears or anger, maybe both. After all, Claire was 55, and they were cutting her from a youth-obsessed tech firm. We'll need your key card, laptop and company phone by Friday, Marjorie said, recovering her tone. Your team will be notified this afternoon. Claire's eyes narrowed slightly. Her team. The 6 engineers she'd hired, mentored and led in building the data engine that powered Coralytics' flagship software, Finsight. A tool now used by nearly half of the Fortune 500. Understood, Claire said, rising. Is there anything else? Denise and Marjorie exchanged glances, unsettled by her composure. That's all. Thank you for being professional, Marjorie said with a weak smile. Claire nodded and left. On her way back to her office, she passed the executive boardroom, glass walls revealing CEO Victor Lawson pointing animatedly at a revenue slide. The same Victor who had taken credit for her algorithm at last year's tech conference, only referring to her as a member of the research team. Claire closed her office door, pulled out her personal phone and sent a text. It's happening. Friday's my last day. The reply came instantly. Perfect. Dinner tonight to finalize everything. That evening, Claire met Gregory Stone at Meridian, an upscale restaurant nestled in the quiet part of town, far from Coralytics' offices. Gregory, the CEO of Nexera Systems and Coralytics' biggest competitor, had reserved a private dining alcove hidden behind sleek wooden panels and soft lighting. So they really did it, he said, shaking his head as he slid into the booth across from her. Claire nodded. This afternoon. They didn't even blink. Victor never understood what I actually built. He thought the innovation was in the interface, the branding. But the real power was always in the architecture. Gregory raised an eyebrow. And they just gave it up. Claire sipped her water. They don't know they've given it up. Yet. 3 months ago Claire had learned, through a misrouted email, that Coralytics never filed the patent for her data algorithm. When she asked about it, legal called it an oversight. She didn't buy it. A deeper dig into internal memos confirmed her suspicion. They had no intention of naming her on the patent. They planned to fire her before filing, claiming full company ownership. What they didn't know was that Claire had spent late nights refining the algorithm at home, using her personal laptop. The refinements increased processing speed by 43%. That work, completed outside work hours and off company machines, was legally hers. The patent went through last month, she told Gregory. Filed under my name. Documented, time-stamped. Everything. Gregory smiled. And now you're ready. He slid a folder across the table. Sign this and Nexera gets exclusive rights. You'll be our new Chief Innovation Officer. We announce Monday. Claire opened the folder and skimmed through the pages. She already knew the terms by heart. A 7-figure signing bonus, a healthy chunk of Nexera stock and a royalty deal for every product using her algorithm. But she read it anyway. She liked being thorough. What do you think Victor will do when he sees the press release? Gregory asked, half grinning. He'll panic, Claire replied simply. But I'm not worried about him. I'm thinking about my team. Gregory leaned in. Already taken care of. If they're interested, we've got positions for all 6 of them. Senior titles, better pay. Claire finally signed the last page and closed the folder. It was done. Her future secure. Her work protected. To new beginnings, Gregory said, lifting his glass. And to finally owning your value, Claire added, clinking her glass against his. She left the restaurant that night not feeling triumphant but certain. She'd planned carefully, waited patiently. Now the pieces were moving. Thursday and Friday moved quickly. Claire spent her final days at Coralytics wrapping up exit interviews, transferring knowledge and clearing her desk. She kept her expression neutral, polite, even when whispers followed her down the hall. Some co-workers gave her sympathetic nods. Others, like the younger developers, approached nervously, asking if she'd write them LinkedIn recommendations. She agreed to each one with a smile. But behind that smile she was documenting everything. Project notes, passwords, access logs. Her transition packet was over 50 pages long. Not out of kindness but out of necessity. She wanted it on record that she left everything in order. Her final meeting was with Denise from HR. You understand that any intellectual property developed during your employment belongs to Coralytics? Denise asked as she pushed a non-disclosure form across the table. Of course, Claire replied. Anything created during work hours using company equipment, absolutely. She emphasized each qualifier. Denise, distracted by her checklist, didn't even blink. And you have no proprietary materials in your possession? Nothing that belongs to Coralytics, Claire said truthfully. The algorithm was hers and she had the paperwork to prove it. As she packed the last of her things, family photos, notebooks, a mug from her team that read Code Queen, Marjorie appeared in the doorway. Just checking if everything's going smoothly, she said, leaning in with a forced casualness. Crystal clear, Claire said, wrapping up a small award she once won for her work on the very algorithm they thought they owned. You know, these decisions are never personal, Marjorie added. Victor just feels the company needs younger energy. Claire paused, then looked her in the eyes. I understand. Business is business. Something in her tone made Marjorie hesitate. There was a flicker of doubt just for a second before she forced a tight smile. Will you be taking time off? Actually, Claire replied, I start Monday. Marjorie blinked. That's fast. Doing what? Claire smiled faintly. Leadership. And I'm very excited. She didn't elaborate. Let them wonder. Claire walked out of Coralytics for the last time, cardboard box in hand. She paused at the entrance and looked back at the sleek glass building. 15 years of her life had been poured into that place. On the top floor she could see lights glowing in the executive suite. They were probably preparing for the Monday morning meeting, likely discussing how to cover her responsibilities with cheaper hires. They had no idea what was coming. On Monday that room would be in chaos. At precisely 7:30 a.m., a black Nexera Systems car pulled up to her apartment. She stepped into it wearing a charcoal gray suit she had picked out for this moment. As they drove to Nexera's headquarters, Gregory texted her, the press release is live. Industry blogs are already picking it up. Claire smiled and looked out the window. Monday wasn't just a new beginning. It was a reset of the entire playing field. By the time Claire settled into her new office, floor-to-ceiling windows, modern minimalist design, her name was all over the tech news. Nexera acquires groundbreaking algorithm, the headlines read. Claire Bennett named Chief Innovation Officer. The press release highlighted her as the sole inventor of the patented technology, noting that any company using similar systems would now need to license it from Nexera. At 9:15 a.m. her phone buzzed. It was a message from Miguel, her former lead engineer at Coralytics. Complete chaos here. What did you do? Claire laughed quietly and typed back. Check your email. You and the rest of the team have offers. 8 miles away, Victor Lawson's Monday meeting had just turned into a crisis. Miguel's updates kept rolling in throughout the morning. Victor came in early. Legal and finance were already waiting for him. They've pulled all your files. They've wheeled in servers from the research division. Claire could picture the scene. Victor pacing. Legal scrambling. Marjorie sweating. At 10:45 a.m., Claire received an email directly from Victor. Claire, there seems to be a misunderstanding. Please call me as soon as possible. She forwarded it to Nexera's legal team without replying. By noon, Coralytics stock had dropped 7%. Nexera's had jumped 12%. Tech blogs began calling the situation a strategic masterstroke. Claire sipped her coffee calmly as 3 industry magazines requested interviews. How are you feeling? Gregory asked, stepping into her office later that day. Validated, Claire replied. For 15 years I watched people take credit for my work. I was told I should be grateful just to be in the room. She looked out the window. Now I'm finally being seen for what I am. Her assistant appeared at the door. Dr. Bennett, the development team is ready for you. Also, she added with a wry smile, TechVantage's CEO has called 4 times. Claire didn't even blink. Please let him know I'm in meetings all day. He can contact Nexra's legal team if he needs to. She walked confidently toward her first meeting as Chief Innovation Officer. Her story was just beginning. By Tuesday, it was clear that Claire's departure had created a storm Coralytics couldn't contain. Miguel texted again. Victor called an all-hands at 2. We're out after that. Claire responded, perfect. Start Monday. Welcome to Nexra. Meanwhile, Coralytics scrambled. Their prized software, FinSight, was built entirely on Claire's algorithm. Without it, or without paying licensing fees, they'd be forced to rebuild from scratch. That would take years and millions in R&D. At 3:30 p.m., Miguel sent another message. Victor's trying to act calm. But when someone asked if we even own the patent, Marjorie went pale. He ended the Q&A early. Claire forwarded the exchange to Gregory. They're unraveling, she said aloud, almost to herself. And this is just the start. By Wednesday morning, industry headlines were calling it the algorithm uprising. Tech analysts dissected the patent filing dates. Claire's name prominently displayed on every legal document. 2 major clients contacted Nexra, quietly requesting demos of their upcoming platform. They're worried, Gregory said during their morning check-in. And not just about the tech, they're questioning Coralytics' judgment. Claire smiled. They gambled on arrogance. At 11:12 a.m., Claire's assistant appeared again. Dr. Bennett, Denise from Coralytics HR is on the line. Claire didn't flinch. Put her through. Denise sounded tense. Claire, hi. I'm calling about the situation with your patent. We believe there might have been a misunderstanding about ownership. There's no misunderstanding, Claire said coolly. The contract was clear. So were the timestamps and hardware logs. Everything I built on my time with my tools is mine. The patent confirms it. Denise hesitated. Victor was hoping you'd be open to a conversation. Please route any future requests through Nexra's legal department, Claire replied. I'm not available for direct discussion. That same afternoon, Claire stood at the head of Nexra's boardroom, presenting the technology roadmap for the next 2 quarters. Her voice was confident, her outline crystal clear. At the far end of the table, Gregory watched her with pride. This, he whispered to the chairman beside him, is why we backed her. Claire's proposal included a new product suite built on her upgraded algorithm. Faster, smarter, and more scalable than anything Coralytics could touch. We'll release in Q3, she concluded. And by Q4, I estimate we'll take a 20% bite out of their enterprise market share. After the meeting, Gregory approached her. You know, it's strange, he said. This isn't just a business win. It's poetic justice. Claire shook her head. It's not about revenge. It's about correction. I earned this. And now, finally, I get to lead without being hidden behind someone else's name. By Friday, the fallout at Coralytics was impossible to ignore. Their stock had plummeted by 23% in 5 days. Analysts openly questioned the stability of their leadership team. Claire received another email, this time from Richard Doyle, one of Coralytics' board members. Dr. Bennett, I'd appreciate the opportunity to speak confidentially. Please let me know if you're open to a brief call. Claire forwarded it to Nexra's legal counsel with a brief message. Do not engage yet. Let them sweat. Gregory grinned when he read it. You're enjoying this a little. Not enjoying, Claire replied. Just savoring the truth catching up. Miguel video called later that afternoon. Victor says we can recreate the algorithm in 6 months, he said, trying not to laugh. Claire, you and I both know that's impossible. It took you 3 years and even we didn't fully understand every layer. Claire shook her head. They're grasping at smoke. And the more they bluff, the worse it gets. Miguel and the rest of her team officially submitted their resignations by close of business Friday. Their statements were coordinated, clear, and public. Tech insiders took notice. Claire watched the social media chatter roll in. Coralytics core team jumps ship. Innovation exodus. The engineers follow their architect. The hashtag #CodeQueen Claire started trending among younger developers. Meanwhile, Coralytics' legal department finally reached out to Nexra's lawyers. The terms Nexer returned were fair, but brutal. Triple the standard licensing rate. Mandatory public acknowledgement of Claire as the original inventor. They'll choke on the second clause, Gregory said. Victor's pride won't allow it. Then let them start over, Claire answered. While we're moving forward. Monday arrived with a buzz. Miguel and the others walked into Nexer's headquarters for their first day, greeted with applause from their new colleagues. Claire led the orientation herself. You were never just employees, she said. You were co-builders. And now you get to work where your voice matters. Anita, the systems architect, nodded. It's weird. We've had more real conversation in this one meeting than in months at Coralytics. That's because here, Claire said, you're seen. After the session, her assistant interrupted with breaking news. Victor Lawson just stepped down. Coralytics made it official an hour ago. Claire blinked. That was faster than I expected. Not just him, the assistant added. Marjorie and the head of legal too. They're out. Claire sat back, letting the weight of it settle. They built a house of cards. All I did was stop holding it up. By Tuesday afternoon, industry headlines read like a corporate obituary. Coralytics cleans house amid patent crisis. Claire Bennett's exit reshapes tech landscape. Claire received an email that evening from Richard Donovan, the new interim CEO of Coralytics. It read simply, Dr. Bennett, congratulations on your new position. I'd like to discuss a fair licensing agreement for your algorithm. We are prepared to acknowledge your contribution publicly. Would you be available next week? Claire forwarded the email to Gregory with 2 words. Phase 1. Complete. Gregory's reply was instant. Beautifully executed. The board is thrilled. The story of the overlooked genius is now boardroom gospel. Claire chuckled. Let's see what Phase 2 brings. 3 months later, Claire stood backstage at the National Technology Innovation Conference. The spotlight was about to hit her for the first time, not as someone in the background, but as the main event. Please welcome our keynote speaker, the host announced, Dr. Claire Bennett, Chief Innovation Officer at Nexer Systems and creator of the data engine that has transformed modern enterprise software. The applause was thunderous. Claire stepped onto the stage, composed and radiant in a navy suit. Thank you, she said, surveying the crowd. Today I want to talk about innovation, recognition, and the cost of underestimating creators. She didn't mention Coralytics by name. He didn't have to. Everyone already knew. Her talk wove through technical brilliance and personal resilience. She explained her algorithm in clear terms but focused just as much on what it means to be acknowledged. Innovation isn't anonymous, she said. It comes from people. Real people with names, with stories, with value. Afterward, during the reception, a young developer approached her nervously. I just wanted to say, your story changed the way I think about my work. I've started documenting everything I build now. Even what I do on weekends. Claire smiled. That's smart. Protect your ideas. They're your legacy. By the end of the night, her inbox was flooded with mentorship requests, speaking invites, and one powerful headline. Claire Bennett, the woman who made tech listen. That Friday, Claire received another update. Coralytics had finally signed a licensing deal. Their stock stabilized, but at a much lower valuation than before. The agreement included a full acknowledgement of her as the original inventor. Claire read the announcement twice, then leaned back in her chair. Took them long enough. Her assistant entered moments later with a package. A silver invitation. You've been invited to speak at the Women in Technology Leadership Summit. The topic. Claire opened the card. Owning your intellectual value. How one woman changed an industry. She chuckled. Well, that's a nice full circle moment. Exactly 1 year after Claire had been forced out of Coralytics, she sat in her corner office at Nexer reviewing the quarterly innovation report. Under her leadership, the company had released 3 successful products using her algorithm, capturing massive market share. Gregory entered holding a bottle of champagne. Happy anniversary, he said. You deserve this moment. He poured 2 glasses and handed her one. The board asked me to tell you, we've officially passed Coralytics in market value. Claire didn't gloat. Instead, she smiled with quiet pride. That's what happens when you value people and their ideas. As they toasted under the late afternoon sun, Claire knew this wasn't just about business. It was about justice, for every innovator who had ever been overlooked. Claire's rise had not only transformed her career, it had reshaped Nexra itself. New hires flowed in from across the industry, drawn by the company's newfound reputation for valuing creators. The office atmosphere shifted. Engineers spoke freely in meetings, junior staff pitched ideas without fear. Claire's leadership had cultivated something rare in tech, a culture of recognition. One morning as she walked into the innovation wing, she passed a wall her team had started decorating. A gallery titled Minds Behind the Code, filled with photos and bios of developers and designers. Claire paused in front of her own picture, added by someone without her knowing. "We see you," was written beneath her name. She smiled and kept walking. Later that week, Claire received an unexpected call from Anita. "You've got to see this," Anita said, voice buzzing with energy. "Check Tech News Wire." Claire opened the site and saw the headline, "Coralytics delays major product launch indefinitely." The article detailed how their attempts to rebuild the algorithm had failed internal stress tests. Their leadership had promised a 6-month turnaround. It had now been 9. "They can't move without us," Anita said. "We weren't just a feature. We were the foundation." Claire nodded slowly. That's the part they never understood. Innovation isn't just code. It's time. It's vision. As the months passed, Claire received speaking invitations from top universities, innovation panels, and even government agencies interested in fostering ethical tech development. Her calendar filled up fast, but she made time for mentorship. Every Friday she held open office hours for young developers across the company. "Bring your half-baked ideas, your messy notebooks, your weird theories," she told them. "This is the space to explore." One intern, nervous at first, presented a concept for data security layering. Claire reviewed it with interest, then connected the intern with Nexra's R&D head. "Every mind matters," she said. "You never know who's holding the next breakthrough." In a quieter moment one evening, Claire sat in her office reviewing the original copy of her patent. The sleek, formal certificate bore her name in bold letters across the top. Claire Bennett. She ran her finger over the raised lettering. 15 years of work reduced to a document, but one that changed everything. Not just for her but for the people who had watched her fight back. Who had doubted their own value in places where they weren't seen. She turned the certificate over and jotted something on the back in pen. "It's never just about being smart. It's about being seen." The Women in Technology Summit came quickly. Claire stepped onto the stage in front of a crowd of over 2,000 people. Her talk wasn't flashy, it was honest. She told them about the long nights, the dismissive meetings, the day she packed her box. "They thought they were taking everything from me," she said. "What they didn't realize was I had already built something they couldn't touch." She ended with this: "Protect your work. Value your name. And never ever underestimate the quiet person in the back of the room." The applause was thunderous, but the real victory came later, when attendees lined up not to flatter her but to thank her. After the summit, Claire returned to Nexra and resumed her normal schedule. One afternoon her assistant brought in a manila envelope. "From the U.S. Patent Office," she said. Inside was a notice. Her second patent, an advanced version of the algorithm, had just been approved. This one didn't just optimize data. It predicted patterns. Claire called Gregory immediately. "I hope you're sitting down," she teased. "I just changed the game again." Gregory laughed. "You're making it very hard for anyone else to keep up." Claire leaned back in her chair, heart steady. She wasn't chasing validation anymore. She was setting the pace. News of the second patent rocked the industry. Tech blogs hailed it as Algorithm 2.0. Investors poured more resources into Nexra, and competitors scrambled to understand what Claire had created. Coralytics tried to downplay it, but insiders leaked that their engineers were nowhere close to replicating it. Claire remained focused. "Let them chase," she told her team. "We'll keep building." Internally, Nexra implemented her framework for protecting innovation. Clear attribution, fair credit, and automatic inventor royalties. "We're building more than software here," she told HR. "We're building a future where creators stay empowered." The next quarter closed with Nexra overtaking every competitor in their category. Claire's leadership had redefined what was possible. During a board dinner, Gregory raised a toast. "To the person who taught us that innovation has a face, and it deserves a name." Claire lifted her glass but shook her head. To every developer who was ever told to stay quiet, may they never have to again. Her words echoed across the room. They weren't just celebrating profit. They were celebrating principle. Claire ended her evening with a walk through the office. It was late, but a few engineers were still working, music playing softly in the background. She didn't interrupt. She just observed, lines of code glowing on screens, laughter between colleagues, post-it notes with sketches and formulas. This, she thought, is what real innovation looks like. Not in boardrooms or on slides, but in messy late-night brilliance. She slipped quietly into her office, wrote one final note in her journal and smiled. The work never ends. But now it begins in the right hands. A year after walking away from Coralytics, Claire received a message from a young woman she had never met. "Your story saved my career," it read. "I was about to give up. But then I read about you. I stayed. And now I'm leading a team." Claire stared at the message for a long time. Not because it surprised her, but because it confirmed everything she believed. That truth has a ripple effect. That visibility matters. That one person's stand can light the path for many. She typed back a short reply. "Keep building. You're not alone anymore." Then she closed her laptop and looked out the window. A new day was beginning and she was ready for it. Moral lesson. Never let anyone define your worth. Innovation belongs to the mind that creates it. Protect it, own it, and leave